Rolling whenever you're ready.
Hello, I'm Eric Schoefer, owner of Cresheim Valley Beekeeping. This is my home apiary in Mount Airy, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Give you a little sense of where we are, what the climate is like. This is a zone 7B, so it has a winter, but it used to be 7A, so it's actually getting warmer with climate change. So it's been changing the last few years, but we do have to deal with the winter. It's originally would have been a temperate forest. Now it's a suburban neighborhood, but you can see there's a lot of green here in this particular yard. It's almost 120 feet long, and there's a giant oak tree here that's, I sometimes imagine it's 300 years. I don't know for sure, but it's a nice climate around the neighborhood. There's a lot of gardening, a lot of resources for bees and pollinators. Within flight distance, there's the Fairmount Park. There's a shoot of the Fairmount Park, the Wissahickon Creek, and then the Cresheim Creek, which is where I get my name, because we're on Cresheim Road and the Cresheim Creek runs near here. So there's some habitat that is within flight distance of my bees here. That is like, of course, the Brits talk about a tree being an acre in the sky. And, so we have tulip poplar, maple at the beginning of the season, locust, honey locust, black locust, anyway, and some non-native species too that really help. Like for instance, right now the crepe myrtle are starting, and bees like that, wild grape, obviously knotweed like all over the country. Anyway, so we're to talk a little bit about my yard. I'm a carpenter. I started beekeeping. I was into the gardening and the vegetable gardening, and so I was thinking a little bit permaculture, and wanting to have the pollinators in connection with the plants that I was trying to grow. And because I was a carpenter, I thought, I can make my own equipment. It's just that easy, and it's not that easy. But I started making my own equipment and started beekeeping about 15 years ago. And so one of the things I celebrate in my yard is because I make my own equipment, I can custom make stuff. I can adapt Langstroth stuff, for particular shims or different ideas. I also make different cultural style hives. So you see behind me, this is a Lazutin hive, not presently occupied. But one of the things that's interesting right away to see, like the propolis in the Lazutin hive. We'll talk a little bit. I'm trying to, I would say my biggest kind of perspective on how to keep bees healthy and alive is to raise strong bees. I would say IPM, that's the first thing I'm shooting for, is what can I do in my setup to support raising the healthiest, strongest bees I can. So that means keeping the hives as separated as I can, diversifying the look of the hive, so that's why I paint all these different colors, so that it's easy for bees to get back to their original homes and not be cross-contaminating each other with drift. And what else to say? So anyway, as a carpenter, I make some different cultural style hives. So we have the Lazutin style top bar hive here, which is, I try to mostly to keep it all consistent with my Langstroth equipment. So this is a double deep size with just a zip tie, and the wings off of the bottom frame are clipped off. I see some ants living in there now. And then here are some top bar hives, Tanzanian top bar hives. This is a 5 foot long hive. Maybe just show the entrance, a little bit of the bees working that. What's interesting, as a beekeeper, one of the things you learn is that different style hives take different style management styles and a whole new learning curve, I find. So these top bar hives are, you can't use formic, for instance, on top like you do with the Langstroth. Anyway, so it takes new knowledge and experiment and learning to get any of these hives to work. I also have, here's the Langstroth part in the back, you can see, and there's extra equipment over there. And then most recently, I've added some AZ-styled Slovenian hives. There's a cedar one and another gray one in the back, and that's the one we'll be working. We'll be working the AZ Slovenian style hive today. But first, I also want to talk a little bit, before we go there, I want to talk a little bit about another thing that I try to think about in this yard, which is that I'm also trying to support other bee and pollinator species. And I try to really notice that. The bees were my entry bug, and I really have come to love honeybees and wasps, Hymenoptera, and pollinators in general. And it's just been a gateway to a lot of knowledge, ecology, and it's just inspiring. But let me show. So I built a lot of native bee houses with the bees that were here. The first one I noticed, oh, interesting. That bee right there, that might be my first Megachile sculpturus. I'm not sure, but anyway, I built some native bee houses. Like there's an experiment from that these logs on this tree. I don't know if you can see in there. I drilled holes of various sizes as a kind of experiment to see which size holes the bees in this area might prefer. One of the things that's interesting this year with this, oh yes, that is Megachile sculpturus there. So these were the first houses that I made. Look at that. What a nice coincidence. So, and in fact, I would say these are the males. So they've emerged and they're now looking for the females to come out. And this is how they mate. They're hovering around this entrance trying to mate them just as they come out. That's my understanding of the first native bee that I noticed here was in the spring. It's already, they're past, Osmia taurus. So both of those species, Megachile sculpturus and Osmia taurus, are not native, just like my honeybees are not native. But I found them here and I'm supporting them here and I'm promoting them here. Until someone tells me different, this is the way I think. I also find native bees, like some of the carpenter bees, the I'm bad with the pronunciation, but also the sweat bees, little green metallic sweat bees have been emerging. And in fact, just the other day I saw some little sweat bees in these things, which was kind of weird. Mostly they appear in my wood piles, kind of in the dirt between. I see one now over there, but in between the pieces of wood or drilling holes in the wood. So anyway, I'm trying to support all the species that I can find here and the ones I brought here. And so let's go back now. Let me talk about one more thing. So, let me get this going. In my IPM strategy, so I said I'm trying to diversify the looks, trying to have it easy to find their homes, trying to have some separation for avoiding drift. Also, one of the things that I take as important is my winter, how I get them through the winter. So I just set this hive up just to show how I get through the winter and also to demonstrate a little bit. Obviously, the next step in the IPM idea is genetics. How can you promote good genetics? So in this little yard, I try to raise, I might bring genetics in every now and then. I'm also the apiary manager of our public apiaries in Philly. I'm on the board of the Philadelphia Beekeepers Guild. And so I do have some influence and contact with bees and queens and genetics, a little bit more wider than my own. I have about 10 apiaries myself. This is my largest apiary. It tends to be probably between 15 and 30 hives. I try to work from here. I try to raise some queens here and raise new colonies here. But obviously that's one way to promote, is finding survivor genetics, mixing in survivor genetics, and that's one of the strong ways to work with IPM to avoid the diseases to begin with. Having healthy bees that can keep themselves healthy themselves through, noticing varroa sensitive hygiene, leg biting, those kind of things. But anyway, so I do try to raise my own bees in this little apiary as a model. I have to be up front this year that I was a little bit, we really had a quick season. It grew really quickly, and so swarm season was really strong. And I had a little bit of some development of queen cells, and so my work this year was really just pretty much walk-away splits, even splits of some of the strong colonies. Gave us a brood break, which is another nice thing for IPM. Why is that the case? Because about diseases, the biggest one that we are working on is the varroa. There's a lot of other diseases and pests too, but varroa is the one that's really knocking the beekeeping industry on its back. And so with varroa, the way varroa works is it breeds in the bee cells. Just before capping, the female goes in, and then it's capped, and then she starts feeding in the food there, and she starts making her babies, first a male and then one or two, whatever she can get out of it. A drone brood would be a little longer, so maybe she gets two, maybe females. They mate inside and then they emerge. So around this time, the beginning, we are in the kind of mid-July right now. We're coming on our dearth. We mostly in this area have one big nectar flow in the spring, and we're coming towards the end of that. We're coming to our dearth. This is a time when the bee population is maxing out and starting to decrease, and the varroa population is starting to exponentially continue to increase. So if you don't have it under control at this point, it's a really dangerous time for the healthier bees. I lost my thought there a little bit, but let me say about the other IPM thing I'm concerned about is conserving the energy of my bees through the winter and making it as easy as possible for them to live through the stressful times. So I'm with Tom Seeley, and I'll give a shout out to Shelley too. This work on looking at how they maintain the temperature in their hives, how they maintain the climate, and I've adopted this strategy that I make myself. These little bees, these little ants just love these cracks in between. I've been wondering if there's some kind of symbiosis with these little ants. But anyway, I'm demonstrating a Hopkins shim, how I try to raise queens when I need to in this small scale apiary. And so this is what I do, but as I said, this year I didn't even have to do it. But that's why this is here. There's a 3-inch shim, and I just put I find open brood and young larvae 1 day to 2, and eggs in a frame, and you just can put it just like this, and then you can get the cells and they'll grow down like that. So you're making it into what the raising queens, what they want, a vertical setup instead of a horizontal setup like this for Langstroth usually. So I wrap with, I'll just show, just 2-inch insulation. I try to use whatever the most that's available. I just do a box joint and tape it a little bit, and then I wrap it with something that's a wind cover, and that way the bees they don't have to spend as much energy keeping their temperature constant, especially once they start raising their brood, where we're talking 93 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit. They're trying to keep their brood, and it could start in January, and they're keeping that temperature in there. And so with this, they don't have to spend as much energy as they would to get to that temperature. And Seeley has shown this stuff with his studies of the comparing the tree cavity hive with the live tree insulation versus a Langstroth without any insulation versus a Langstroth with some support. And you really see that temperature is much more constant, and the bees don't have as much work to keep bringing the temperature back to the right temperature. So I really think that's a successful and important thing to do, and I do it to all my survivor hives. Let's go back now. That's all I need to say about that. Let's go back now and work a hive. You can see here's some nukes here. So that's part of it. Trying to raise your own nukes to replace if you do have any losses, trying to keep your genetics. These are all from my own yard. I do have one hive. That was a nuke too, but it's already got into full equipment at this point. And the other thing I would say is this one was a swarm from actually an out apiary where I messed up this year, but I got it out of the tree. A little bit foolish, but I'm a rigger, so I'm kind of comfortable with heights. But I got this out on a limb, as they say, at Paul's house, my friend. This is the hive that I mean to raise queens with the Hopkins shim. So it's a double queen, double colony box. The other queen would be here. I only have one in right now. As I say, I'm not raising queens right now, so I'm not too worried about it. But I put the Hopkins shim up here, and it's supported by 2 colonies, and you can really overflow this hive with bees to raise good queens. The other thing I'll say is that any of the weak colonies, I really believe in feeding. And when I start making splits, when I bring swarms, I'm feeding with simple syrup in the spring through the summer until they get to the double brood box situation for winter setup. One of the things so I'm going to work this hive, and one of the things that I'll say about this hive, so these hives I built only last year, kind of too late to establish bees in them. But let me see. So if you're not familiar with the AZ or Slovenian style hives, they work horizontally. So instead of working like the Langstroth where you're bringing the frames in from above and sliding them in like a file folder, instead they're sliding in this way on these 3/8" aluminum bars. There's 3 of them, and the bottoms of the profile of the frames, unlike the Langstroth, have this cute angle on the edges, whether it's curved or this one we cut just like this. But that way there's very little room for where the bees can propolize, so they stay moving mostly. And one other thing to say. So again, consistent with my Langstroth equipment, I'm making these I made all deep, Langstroth deep size, and these little things can make them into a Langstroth box. So that actually I did manage to get some of the comb built last year in my Langstroth boxes before I had bees in here. So I did have a little bit of a head start with the buildup of the comb to give them a little less work. The first thing I'll say as I'm coming to look at a hive is I look at the front entrance. And when I do this, I'm looking for dead bees on the front. I'm looking for if the bees are bringing out like chalk brood, dead little white chalk brood, or any signs of disease. If the bees are walking on the ground, with deformed wings for deformed wing virus, or just kind of dizzy, maybe Israeli virus, queen. Anyway, so I'm looking. First thing I'm going to do, and I can see what's interesting now. Again, noticing. This seems like a decently healthy gate here, and I'm seeing some propolis coming in on their little corbiculas. They're coming in right when I'm saying it, and I'm not seeing it, but I have been seeing some different colors as we've been seeing. There was one, but anyway, so there's pollen around. I think I said propolis, but there's pollen right now, and I see a few different colors. Oh, do you see that bright orange that just landed? And I'm seeing a kind of a yellow, which is more common. But so that's the first thing we do, look at the entrance. And lately, because we're at the point where if people haven't treated, you could get into hives. If they get a high Varroa count, we could be coming right now, as we're coming into the end of the nectar flow, hives could start crashing, and one of the things you'll see is what's called Varroa. Oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name here. Anyway, the stress where Varroa has overtaken the colony so much that you've got they're pulling brood as spotty brood patterns and broken cappings and stuff like that. But the other thing you'll notice right coming to the entrance is that the populations might start crashing. Like I was experiencing this with a beekeeper that I'm managing in downtown yesterday, and he didn't get his treatment for his formic this year in before it got too hot, over 85 degrees, and he's experiencing some crashing in town. So we were working at some Ralph Boucher kind of extreme, removing complete brood from the colony, so isolating the queen and trying a kind of radical step to knock it was over 10% in a couple of colonies. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, one of the things you'll experience when you see that is there start to not be many bees at the entrance. These girls look good. So I don't see a problem here. So let's go back and start working the hive. So a cool thing about AZ hives is this is how it works. You just take the back off, expose it. You can see the bees aren't even, there's a little bit of, in my imprecise carpentry, there's a little bit of gaps here in my first boxes. But inside I've made this out of marine ply, and so that moist environment inside, the marine ply is good for that. I actually have capacity to make 5 of these hives, and I'm looking forward. Next one's I'm gonna make into I just saw a hive beetle there, but I haven't seen many hive beetles this season. They've been pretty light. Next I'm gonna make is an architectonic. I'm gonna make an architectonic hive. One of the next ones, like a lighthouse or something. And then I'm thinking in my community garden that's only a couple blocks away, I'm gonna make some kind of a figure hive out of these, maybe a dragon or something, depending on what the community wants. But anyway, so let's start working a hive. One other thing I'll say, so with this hive, it's a new start from a package. This one was a Carniolan genetic from Man Lake. When I get packages these days, I'm mostly getting them a little bit cheaper from Georgia. But anyway, this one I think was a Carniolan. And since I installed it this spring, I've been feeding, this hive has been absorbing that simple syrup, sugar syrup, 1-to-1, like crazy. This is, and because it's in my backyard, I can really stay on it and add these jars full of syrup. And they take them in a few days. So they've drawn out well, and let's start to look at them. Let me set up my hive stand. So this is a traditional kind of Slovenian hive stand. Langstroth can use them too. I think it's pretty cool. The other thing I'll say about the Slovenians, I have worked a little bit with some virtual education with the Slovenian Institute, and I'm not thinking of his name, but the guy that wrote the AZ and Slovenian style book in English that's so popular. So I have worked a little bit and learned a little bit from them, and let's see, I'm going to take this off. I might put my veil on, we'll see. These girls have been very gentle. My goal with this hive is really, personally, I'm just trying to get this hive through the first winter. I'm not looking to gather any honey from it for the first season. They're looking good. They've drawn out the first 2 boxes and the frames really well. I'll show you. And so here's how you can take a frame out. Wow, these girls have really built up. I mean, I really could add some frames right now to these girls. I could add another box. But you see how gentle this system is, I find. So there's some new honey. You see how new the comb is. They've drawn out this side. I'll put on my veil just to be clear and safe. Keep the smoker going a little bit. And I barely need the smoker, as you can see. Let's see what else we can find. I did a Varroa count on this colony, so you know, as far as your IPM goes, you know, the last defense is to treat, and I only treat organically with formic, thymol, brood break. Oh, that's not an organic treatment, but anyway, brood breaks, Hop guard I've tried with the top bar hives because you can't put the formic on the top. Oxalic dribble, oxalic vapor. At this point in the season, it's too hot to be using the formic on colonies, so I wouldn't do that now. That's why we were doing that. So you can, let's see, there's some brood here, you can see. I'm not going to try and find the egg in this one or any larvae in here, I don't think. My eyesight isn't great, so I'm going to take my glasses off in my veil. I can start to see better. The light is really difficult here. So normally, I'm not going to, wow. So normally if you want to see what's inside the cells, you got to get the light at your back. I'm not going to pick this one though. I don't think. All right, I'm going to go for another one. What's my goal here today? I'm mostly demonstrating how the hive is doing. The only question I really have is, should I add honey frames in, a third level up here? And I'm sure I can. They've drawn out to the edges the whole friggin' way here. Not much going on there. Maybe I'll go down. Let me look a little bit. How's this one? Let's see what's going on this one. Well, one of the things I noticed is just that the comb is a little bit darker in the center here. But, so they might have had a brood in here what time. There's a little bit of a queen, maybe a queen cup. Nothing in it. There's some brood. But my varroa counts on this colony, about 2 weeks ago, I had done a treatment when it was below 85, a 2-week treatment with 2 pads of formic, and the varroa count was below threshold. One of the things I see here is a little bit of a bitten out capping, and here's one that's open. Make sure that's not bald brood in there. It probably is a little bit concerning. There's another little queen cup without anything in it. You see that? This cup here. And inside there's no egg or larva, so it's not anything to be worried about. They make that naturally. They're always ready. Let's go a little bit further this way. I think I'm going to go down. Let's see what's going on below. I'd like to show you a better image of a larva or a egg. Oh, here's a better frame of brood. But it is patchy. Uh-oh. I'm a little worried. Yeah. Oh, there's a cool thing. I mean, that's not a problem, but look, that's an emerging little bee here. A worker girl coming out right now. And there's one that's going to come right after her a little bit later. What's this one doing? Is that one alive? But this one's coming. But it is, as you see, it's patchy. There's a lot of holes in it. Now that could be just, I guess, emergence. Let me see if we can find larvae and eggs. Light behind me. I'm seeing a little bit of a pollen bound here. So if this area has got pollen in it, and it's right at the boundary of the brood, and it's like there's no space. I mean, there's space in the middle. They're a little bit pollen bound. Maybe I need to give these girls more room. But I'm definitely worried about this pattern. Why am I'm having trouble. But anyway, I'm trying to think of the varroa. Anyway, I'm just seeing pollen. I'm not seeing eggs. I'm not seeing larvae. Okay. Let's keep looking. Let's keep looking. So you can tell by the queen cell it was this oriented this way. I also put little holes in the bottom. Got to remember a little bit where frames are from, but you can mix it up a little bit. You can checkerboard. That's pretty traditional beekeeping. It's not a big problem. You can flip the frames over. Like the Hopkins shim, you can put them completely horizontally. Interesting. I'm really not seeing new larvae. I'm not seeing eggs. I'm not really looking for the queen right now. Really trying to find evidence of her work rather than the queen itself. Huh. Interesting. Ah, look at the top there? No, that's also... keep going. It's gonna come to me. Parasitic mite syndrome. That's what I'm trying to, with the word I've been trying to come up with. Parasitic. Ah, here goes some open larva. No, that's also kind of old. So here we have some exposed larvae. It's really pretty concerning. I'm not seeing young eggs and larvae. I'm seeing some of this exposed. This is bald brood, I think. Pretty sure. I haven't taken the tool out yet. Yeah. So I think I've got to think about some techniques to knock varroa down again. I'll do another count. As I said, the last time I checked, about 2 weeks ago, they were at below threshold. I think it might have been 1%, but it could be a problem now. That's what happens these days. So, and we're in that hot time, so I won't be able to use formic. And so I might do a broodless. We'll see. I don't have honey supers, so really I could do what I want. Oh, this pattern on the other side. Let's look at that one. Oh, there we go. Watch for the queen here. Okay, here we go. This is looking good. So I don't know what is can you see what's the best angle here? In here, we've got young larvae, not 1 or 2 day old yet. I don't see. I see in here. You can see the older larvae. They're full curves. You get any shot of that at all? So, but let me see if I can find something younger. Let me see over here. I'm gonna just blow on them a little bit. Make them move away. They don't like human breath. One of the things, if you're approaching I've just read E.O. Schmidt's book, of the Schmidt Index scientist, and he was talking about how when he approaches, oh, there goes some younger ones. Let me see. Let me pick one. Bingo. I think we're seeing right here. So what's the best angle? I think I'll go here. Okay. And what I'm trying to get in is in this cell right here. Is that possible? That is an egg. You see that little dot in the bottom of it? Yes, no? Right here. At the tip of my tool.
Oh, tip of your tool?
Cool. The corner. This corner right here. See it? This cell right. Oh, no, I'm losing it. I lost which one. This one, right here. Between my thumb and that. You get that? Cool. So that, you can see that was just a little upright. Might be a 1 day old larva, but anyway, a little upright creature right there at the center and the bottom, which is a good pattern. This frame looks good. It still does have some patchiness. What's going on in the patchiness here? That larva looks fine. It's not. So this frame looks better. I'll have to do a count. I'm not going to worry about finding the queen. I'm done looking. That's a good thing to see. So I'll come back and do a varroa count to make sure we don't have some kind of jumped level of varroa mites in here. You're looking for...
You're at 35 minutes, Eric.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. I think we're good. I don't know what else. Is there anything else I want to talk about? Come on, baby. I love this style of hive so far. I mean, I've only used it one season, so I'm not claiming to be any expert at it, but you can see how gentle you can keep them, how easy it is to be gentle with the bees. This is the only little trick, learning how to kind of slide them in the right place and catch that back. You know, on these, the way Slovenian hives work is you've got these spacers, these aluminum spacers, and so you just got to get the frames in the right spacing, and then these kind of force it into position, and then you have a little lock. Keep it in there. One of the ways I got to make a little bit of money this year is I made an observation hive for a beekeeper, a wealthy beekeeper that's got some wonderful land, and he had a Slovenian bee house built on his property, and I made a 5-frame, 3-tier observation hive for him this year. Okay, so I have to check here. So one of the things, just lining up, I can take this, well, I don't want to take it out. I'll take it out for a second. Lift this up so I can see the back. Yeah. So, let me see. All right. Bumpa, bumpa, bumpa. All right. That's good. This will be, I think this is actually exactly where this frame was to begin. Yeah, that's good. All right, push this back down. Put the syrup back on. And space it out. They're getting a little bit more feisty now, but I'm done. Not happy that I had their hive open for as long as I have. Hey, go on in. Go on in. Go on in. Go on. You don't want to be out here when I close this door. You're dead. You're dead. All right, stay in there. Okay, that's better. Let's see how the bottom is. Gotcha. There it is. There's another lock. Weird. Oh, there it is. Behind me.
You got a minute and a half. I don't know if you want to finish up in any sort of way.
That's all I have to say. That was a good little, good hive. Thank you so much.
Done.